I want to do something. I want to do something with my life. Let's do something exciting.
Okay.
Let's write a screenplay. I love movies. Don't you love movies?
Yeah, I love movies.
Yeah. I have an idea.
What?
This guy, he goes back in time to fuck all of his ex-girlfriends. Come on, it's like a raunchy comedy.
Wait, that kind of sounds like rape.
I was thinking more like Hot Tub Time Machine.
On this episode of Microbudget, Alex and I will be discussing screenwriting. We're going to be talking about how to write a script, how not to write a script, and what to do with it when you're done.
A friend of mine once said to me, whenever I try to write a screenplay, it turns into either Rushmore or The Graduate. I think a lot of filmmakers are kind of hung up on their influences, and it can kind of drive the stories they end up writing about. It's important to find your own voice, but
it's almost like subconscious, I think, too. You know, if you're a fan of someone's work, it's just kind of, I don't know, ingrained in you maybe.
Well, and sometimes, I mean, if you can use your influences to create something great, then more power to you.
Right, if you can build off of what you were influenced by and still have your voice.
All of the great directors are emulating their favorite directors. It's like there's a difference between ripping something off and just being influenced by it. But when you go to write a screenplay, you should really consider the story that you want to tell.
Besides having your own voice, though, there are a lot of rules that come into play with screenwriting.
I mean, you have to master the form in order to break the rules. So it's like when you sit down to write your script, you should consider a lot of different things. Are you writing it for yourself? And if you are, you can break some of the rules. But at the same time, these rules are in place because they work. If you want to sell your screenplay to a studio or, you know, maybe find management or an agent, you're going to have to write in the basic format because nobody in that business will take you seriously.
They won't even read it.
Right. A lot of people just throw it in the garbage. It doesn't matter how brilliant the script is. If it doesn't follow the basic formatting rules, then no one can take it seriously. It's like a blueprint. Imagine, you know, you're building a house and the architect gives you the blueprint in like some weird, cool, new way that doesn't really make a lot of sense to you, but makes a lot of sense to the architect. It's like, it would just be junk. It's impossible to build anything with that kind of blueprint. So your screenplay has to it has to be a perfect blueprint for the film that you want to tell. And there's a lot that you can do within that format. I mean, that's the fun of screenwriting. The screenwriting software Final Draft will do a lot of formatting for you. There are a lot of script readers I've heard that won't even read a script that isn't written in Final Draft. I mean, because you can pretty much tell. There are several different programs that'll do formatting for you, but Final Draft is the industry standard.
It's essential.
It just makes it a lot easier.
Some of the basic guidelines are a screenplay is usually a minute per page, and a
minute of film time.
Exactly. So if you're looking for a feature-length movie, then, you know, you have to make it at least
90 pages.
Right, but you want it to be more than that.
Yeah, 90 pages is a little short, and I've heard that makes people uncomfortable.
Because they want to have room to cut some things.
Yeah, they want the movie to have substance. So I think the average length of a screenplay is around 100 to 110 pages.
Also, script readers like to see a lot of white on the page, meaning a lot of dialogue.
I mean, your description, it shouldn't be too elaborate. Your description should be very basic and plain and just be really almost like stage directions for a play. You shouldn't describe how an actor should be acting. That's the actor's job. You
shouldn't put in a camera angle unless, again, you're writing for yourself.
If you're writing for yourself, then you can, break some of these rules. But at the same time, if you're writing for yourself, you'll be working with the actor on the set, so you don't need to include in the screenplay how all the lines should be delivered. If you have this vision of how it should be delivered, then chances are the reader will probably have that vision too. So as long as the dialogue is strong and everything's clear, then you don't have to be telling everyone all the actors what to do, and you don't have to be telling the director of photography how to frame the shots. There are books by Sid Field and Robert McKee that are very helpful. They'll tell you all about story structure and, you know, conflict and supporting characters and what those roles should be like in the story. And I don't know, they get into the mechanics of storytelling for a Hollywood film. It's like a lot of these conventions work, and so that's what script readers want when they are opening up a script. They don't, I mean, like, if you're a no-name author, then no one is really expecting anything brilliant from you. So if you're trying to sell a screenplay, they're not going to really pick up on your, you know, unique, amazing talent within the first 10 pages when they're really making up their mind about how they feel. So it's like, just stick to the basics if you want to sell a screenplay. That doesn't mean your story can be whatever you want. Just like the formatting and the structure and the way you tell it, it should really go in line with how films are made, because really it's just like every film follows the same structure. Even a weird movie like Pulp Fiction or The Tree of Life, these films, they follow a certain structure. Your screenplay should have a beginning, middle, and end. It should have a protagonist at the center of the story that has some kind of internal conflict that drives the story. There should be 3 acts. The first act should be around 30 pages if your script is 120 pages. The third act is around 30 pages, and then the middle is 60 pages. About halfway into the first act, there's an inciting incident. This gets the story going. And then at the end of the first act, the conflict is firmly established. In the middle of the second act, around 60 pages if the script is 120, then you have to have the story shift in a completely new direction. It should still be following the through line, the story arc of your character, but it has to go in a new place. And then at the end of Act 2, your protagonist should be at the lowest point they've been in the entire story. This is usually when Wayne and Garth get into a fight or the Joker kills all of Batman's relatives. And then the third act is when you resolve all of the conflicts in the story. You don't have to have a perfect resolution. It can be an open-ended story. If you have an ambiguous story, there needs to be enough substance for the audience to feel satisfied. But my favorite films are ones that are ambiguous and follow a different kind of structure, or at least they play with structure. But, I mean, like I said, every film has a structure.
So you should go through a film and do it, like do Boogie Nights.
I don't really quite remember the story perfectly, but I'd say the inciting incident would be when Burt Reynolds talks to Mark Wahlberg about being in porn. The end of Act 1 is probably when, after Dirk picks his name when they're in the hot tub, and then Jack sees that he can perform and his career is on its way. I think that's the end of Act 1. And then the midpoint, I'd say, is when William H. Macy blows his brains out at the party on New Year's Eve, and then it cuts to a title card that says the 80s. The end of the second act is probably when Dirk's getting beat up in a parking lot, and it's cutting between him and Roller Girl beating up some guy. The climax in the third act is probably when Dirk's at Alfred Molina's house, and they're doing that shady drug deal, and it's just not good. They're going to rob the guy. And Dirk's got a look on his face that just says, I don't need to be here. When Paul Thomas Anderson finished writing the screenplay, he said something like, I wrote Raging Bull. The stories have a lot of similarities. I don't know what it's about. It's a weird movie. It's a rise and fall of a tragic character. So if you're writing for yourself, if you don't care about selling a screenplay, then you can, kind of write whatever you want. But it's probably going to equal a page a minute. If you write a 30-page screenplay, expect a 30-minute film. Someone like Gus Van Sant, I read that the screenplay for Elephant was 20 pages. He's good at getting his cast to improvise. And he's also good at ambiance and texture in a film, so he kind of likes to get lost in something. David Lynch is similar. The screenplay for Fire Walk with Me, I think, is something like 120 pages, and the film and the deleted scenes together are something like 3 hours and 45 minutes. A lot of directors will overshoot, so, if their script is 90 pages, it might be 180 minutes. I think Lloyd Kaufman said that about Troma films, that their pages averaged out to be about 2 minutes. When you're writing for yourself, you have a lot of freedom, but you also have to consider your limitations. On a micro budget, you're not going to be able to get really intense looking car chases. I mean, unless you're a wizard, and some people are, then you might want to kind of scale back from grandiosity if you're doing like a micro budgeted film. I mean, if you think about some of the most successful ones, Blair Witch, El Mariachi, Clerks, Evil Dead, they're very simple concepts. They take place usually in single locations and with only a handful of characters. And if you're gonna write roles for your friends and family members, try to give them something that they can play. You might not want to get like your 25-year-old brother to play an old man or something like that. It might just like be really weird and awkward.
I just don't think we can incorporate everything you want in this screenplay. Like, we're gonna have to cut some things, okay? The SWAT team swooping in and breaking the glass, we just can't afford that.
What? No. We've collaborated with some people on screenplays. Everyone's writing a script, and everyone wants to write a script with you. And usually...
It all sounds good in the beginning.
Yeah, and it turns ugly.
Unfortunately. Well, hey, maybe just we haven't found the right collaboration yet.
Yeah. Well, usually people are intimidated, I think, by how quickly we
can produce material.
Yeah, and how serious we take it. And so some people can get either frustrated or
they seem to get angry with us.
Yeah.
Like we did too much.
Mm-hmm. Like, go through some of when we tried to write that time travel screenplay.
Well, so we would work on it with this guy, and then, we would work on it together too. And, to keep it going, we wanted to finish it. Right. And then he would get all upset, like, that we worked on it. And he would he would be hung up on these little details. And Alex and I are good about, like, moving forward. Like, let's make a decision and then keep going. But a lot of people we've worked with, it seems like they linger over little things. They get hung up on them.
Things that are totally irrelevant.
Right.
and should be really decided by the director. I remember we made an episode of RSStB satirizing this whole experience. And there was a moment where we were debating. This guy was really trying to argue that there should be chicken wings being sold or being served at this dinner or whatever. They're eating chicken wings.
The main character, right, was going to after
chicken
the
wings. And we were like,
right?
okay, yeah. That, and he was like
really. I think we originally had it as pizza. I mean, who cares?
Right, exactly. Like, and we were like, sure, yeah. But it was like someone going back into the script and like kind of changing things. It's like there's an episode of Louis where he has a meeting with. It's like this. It's one of those meetings where like a producer will pull 20 writers into a room and go over a comedy script, and different writers will throw out ideas for jokes. And they do this for a lot of big Hollywood films. And so there's this skit where Louis is like in there with a bunch of writers, and this one guy keeps saying how, this idea sucks and that idea sucks. And the producer's like, okay, well, we're trying to add ideas, not take them away. So why don't we just keep moving on? And like, that's kind of like, if you're writing a script with someone, yeah, you want to iron it out. You want it to be great. But you know what? You need to get a rough draft done first.
Right, and then you could go back and change minor things like what they're eating. Also, that's the type of thing that if you did sell the script, then and they were making the movie, the director would probably say,
or the set designer,
we're sponsored by Taco Bell, so
exactly.
They're eating at Taco Bell.
I mean, so don't get hung up on little details. And if you're collaborating with someone, just try to keep
it positive and keep it go. Don't get your feelings hurt if I don't know, if an idea doesn't work.
Yeah, we reject our own ideas more than we reject other people's ideas. I think when we're collaborating, we try to make people's ideas work. And sometimes that can intimidate people because we might even twist their idea a little bit, and they get annoyed with that. We always run with it if they want to change our ideas because we know that it's, collaborative. I don't know. Artists butting heads is a whole issue, but whatever. And if you don't like your co-writer's ideas, it's really your responsibility to make things work.
Alex sees his ex-girlfriend grabbing a slice of pizza.
When the character sees his ex-girlfriend, the girlfriend should be eating chicken wings. Write that down.
Okay, why chicken wings?
Okay, put it in bold, and then you can delete it later if you don't like it, because I know you don't like my ideas.
We knew this guy was really funny. He was in one of our video projects, and he had a lot of really great ideas, and he was easy to work with.
We worked with him in person. We got along, and we thought that we meshed well.
Right. And so we had talked about, maybe writing a screenplay together. And he told us this story about a crazy Irish funeral and how, the family members will, get wasted and pull a dead body out and dance with it and stuff. And we thought that was pretty hilarious. So we came up with this whole story about, set, against the backdrop of an Irish funeral, about these dysfunctional relationships and how, these brothers and their wives or girlfriends are just kind of they're in dysfunction, and we had an entire concept and a pretty decent.
It was funny, and
so we contacted this guy and we pitched him our idea. We asked him if he'd want to write this thing with us, and he said, "Yeah, that sounds awesome. I just don't want to write a screenplay about bad relationships." And we were like, "Well, that's our idea."
right.
And we didn't have another idea.
And also, at that point, we just decided, you know what, we're not even going to try to move forward because we could foresee how this was going to go if we kept working with him on this project.
Just right off the bat, he was rejecting ideas, which is hard to move forward with something like that. It's like whenever we've collaborated with somebody, whenever someone's asked us to do something, we take their ideas and make those ideas work. We don't reject ideas. We have commissions to make videos that we didn't come up with the idea, and we make those ideas work. That's what we're hired to do.
Or sometimes it's our idea, but we all have to also incorporate their ideas, make them work.
It's a compromise, and in the end, it's, everyone's happy because you produced the material, and that's really what's most important. A lot of people want to make some masterpiece right out the gate, but you should really be concerned with getting something made rather than something great made.
Right. A lot of people, too, think that, something that if, they work on it more slowly, then it'll be better,
But that's unrealistic. I mean, look at the way these TV shows are churned out. I mean, these writers, it's a job to them. So they're writing all day, all night, and they're churning out scripts. You should be able to pitch your script. They say if you're good in a room, your career will thrive. If you can get paid to pitch a script. You can get paid. You can sell a treatment. If you write a script, you should probably write a treatment that's around 3 pages, just to in case somebody doesn't want to read your script and they just want to get the gist of it. You can send them that. A lot of people ask for treatments. We've had to write those, being kind of unprepared and being
right after the fact. It's basically kind of like a summary.
Right. I mean, you can, Google how to write a screenplay treatment. It's basically a summary, and it follows a specific structure. There isn't any dialogue in it unless there's some, Luke, I am your father or something. Your treatment will contain a log line. A good log line will help you sell your script. A logline is a 1 or 2 sentence summary of the entire script. Examples can be found on IMDb. The descriptions for the films on that site are the film's loglines. You're probably not going to sell a screenplay cold calling. You're just, you can write 1 million emails, send out 1 million query letters, but no one's going to care. No one's going to read your script. The best way to sell a script is to get involved in the business to, I don't know, work on independent films, get involved in screenplay contests, or like, screenplay labs, Sundance Lab, Slam Dance. There are all kinds of screenwriting fellowships and programs, and get involved in that scene, because it's really who you know that's the most important. Or if you know script readers, a lot of script readers are young. They're like right out of college, that came up from the mailroom, and they don't really have very good taste in film, and they tear through screenplays. And so if you know any of those people, then you know what they want to read, and you can write for them, and you could possibly get them your screenplay. You should probably get IMDb Pro and make a list of all the producers and production companies that have made films like the one you've written. And then, try to contact those producers. Try to get to know them maybe on Twitter or Facebook or something. There are screenplay sites like The Blacklist and Trigger Street. I don't even know if that's still around. The Blacklist is pretty popular. It costs something like $60 to list a script on there. And, I think it's like, I don't know, the script gets sent out to different readers and agents and different Hollywood people, and they rank them, and some major films have been produced because they ranked high on the Blacklist. But I mean, the Blacklist is used by like Tarantino scripts are on there, so you're competing with the best of them, and that can be cool because if you're a great writer, then your work can stand up. But at the same time, you could have a great screenplay that's just not very commercial.
Alex, come on. We have to keep shooting Pain Shack. Ron's here. Let's just keep shooting our movie.
No, being a director is hard. It's not what I thought it was going to be like when I was little and I wanted to be like Steven Spielberg.
Companies don't just buy screenplays that they intend on making. They buy screenplays to have them, to maybe because... What's the story with the...
like Mighty Joe Young.
Right.
There was like some like screenplay that was purchased because it was about like a killer ape, and Disney didn't want any competition for their giant ape movie, so they bought the screenplay just to shelve it. I mean, places will option your screenplay. That's just, they'll pay you to have the option to buy it.
You have to talk about Trigger Street.
Yeah, Trigger Street was ridiculous. We wrote a few screenplays like back in 2008, 2009 that we put on this website called Trigger Street. That was, I don't know, it was sponsored by like Kevin Spacey or something. He had his name on it.
You can read other people's work and comment on it, give constructive criticism.
Well, in order to list the script on the site, you had to review 2 or 3 other people's scripts, and like there were some of the worst screenplays. They were hilariously bad. There was one that was about this nun, and she was like traveling to Rome or something, and she would have these like sensual fantasies of where she would like see an angel, and it was like written in this weird like it was so creepy. And I was like I wrote to, because she was this woman was awful, and she was kind of
got mad at you.
Yeah, she had shit on a lot of people's screenplays and kind of had a notorious reputation on the site. So I laid into the script and I said something like, it seems like this character just wants to fuck an angel. But there was another screenplay that was about, it was a TV station.
This is my favorite.
On Christmas Eve, and it gets taken over by a gang of guys in Santa suits, and they they're brought. It's like, this is like a live broadcast that everyone is watching on Christmas Eve. I don't really know what this is, but it's like they wanted it to be New Year's Eve, but then the Santa suits wouldn't have made sense. So whatever. Anyway, so they come in with machine guns and they take over the place, and their purpose is to tell everyone how to resolve the conflict in the Middle East. So, and
In
there's
their Santa suits.
yeah, and there's this, and it's like this. So it's just a lot of like this political talk, like just delivered straight from like a lunatic Santa to a camera, and it's just hilarious. And there's this one part where are you talking about the jumping? Yeah.
Right.
There's this one part where the guy writes in the stage direction something like the Santa jumps and then he jumps back and then he jumps back again. So I was like, I wrote in my critique, I said something like, it seems like the directions to actor are just to like jump back and forth a bunch of times. And it was so hilarious to me. It was one of the funniest scripts I've ever read.
How did they plan to resolve the conflict?
I don't remember.
Israeli-Palestinian
I wish I'd
conflict?
saved it. I might have it on a hard drive somewhere, but
Wasn't there one other really funny one?
oh yeah, there was this one where
The switching bodies.
yeah, these two people, it was like a switching bodies comedy except with a twist. And it made no sense. It was like they switched bodies but they were still in their bodies. These two people.
Their minds were still.
But they were I didn't really get it.
It was
They
very
were
confusing.
still them, but they were also the other person.
Right. And yeah.
So I was
made
like,
no sense.
wait. I was like, and so the rules kept shifting from scene to scene, and it just never made any sense, and it wasn't funny, and it tried to have all this office like humor that's like The Office. Like one of the characters was a total Michael Scott clone, and it was just weird. And so I mean, if you have some awkward idea. That was like the time travel script that we tried to write with this guy. It just didn't work. And like, cause he wanted, the premise was that this guy goes back in time to see all of his ex-girlfriends.
Right.
And so I was like, this is starting to get creepy because I mean, if he's
Because he
old,
goes back to high school.
Right.
So we're like thinking, right,
Like
if he's
you-
like really like, 29, but he's talking to this 15-year-old. It just got weird.
It's creepy. And then a few years later, Hot Tub Time Machine came out, and it totally reversed that. It's like John Cusack's character, I think, was like really like creeped out by the younger version of his wife, and he was like
Right.
running away from her because that's just how to handle that. So this guy's entire premise for the time travel script just didn't work.
A little sleazy. Hope you enjoyed episode 3 of Microbudget.
Until next time. Alright. Take your tab off. This is a Hollywood production. Calls for nudity. You gotta be a professional here. I thought you were an actress.
No. Come on. You can't be serious. You would want me to do that. You want everyone to see my boobs? That's okay with you?
Did Kate Winslet say that to James Cameron?